Welcome back to yet another edition of our teaching and learning series, and we are going to continue from the topic we had started previously, interpretation of graphs and data. Now in this case we are going to look at, we are going to bring in some terms which we always use when we are comparing given data or when we are trying to relate different data. Now in this case we are going to bring in terms. We shall have the mean, shall talk about the mean, shall talk about the mode, the median, and finally, and the range. Now what do I mean by the mean, the mode, the median, and the range? I'll start with the mean. What do I mean when I talk about the mean? Now, the mean is another word to mean average. So mean and average have the same meaning. Now, what do I mean when I talk about mean, or what do I mean when I talk about average? The mean is the value obtained when the total sum of items or values is divided by the number of items. So I repeat, the mean is the value obtained when the total sum of values is divided by the number of items in a given data set. For example, if I have a class like this and I get all the heights of the different students and I add all those different heights, when I add all those different heights, that is what I call the sum of the heights. Then when I divide that sum by the number of students in this class, the one which I've divided by is what we call the number of items, or the number of students in that particular class. We can look at an example maybe. Given the following numbers, you're given the following numbers and you're required to find the mean of the given data values. So I'm given 1, I'm given 3, I'm given 5, I'm given 7, I'm given 8, and I'm given 6. So out of these numbers, I'm required to find the mean or the average. Now we say the mean is got by, you get the sum of these values and you divide it by the number of these items. So what I do, I get all these values, I add them, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 6. Divide by the number of items. How many are they? My first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Meaning there are 6 items. So the number of items is 6. And remember we say mean is equal to sum of items divided by the number of items. So by the sum I've added these numbers, and by the number of items I've counted them, and that's 6. So when I add, I have 1 plus 3 gives me 4, 4 plus 5 gives me 9, 9 plus 7 gives me 16, 16 plus 8 gives me 24, 24 plus 6 will give me 30. Then 30 divided by 6. When you get 30 and you divide by 6, you get 5. So the mean of this given data values is 5. In other words, we have added all the values and then we have divided by the total number of these items. So that is what we call the mean or the average. The mean or the average. Number 2, we have what we call the mode. We have what you call the mode. Now when I talk about mode is the number which appears the highest number of times in a given set of values. I repeat, mode is the number which appears the highest number of times in a given set of values. For example, I can have this set of values 1, 2, 5, 7, 3, 3, 4, 2, 4, 8, 2. And out of this, I'm required to determine the mode. Now, when I'm required to determine the mode, I look for which number appears the highest number of times. In other words, which number appears more frequently than all the others. I start with 1. How many times does 1 appear? 1 appears only once. How about 2? 2 appears 1, 2, 3 times. So we have said 1 appears 1 time. 2 appears 3 times. Now this is not a minus. I'm using these dashes to represent the number of times these particular numbers appear. So 1 appears 1 time, 2 appears 3 times, then I go to 3. 3 appears only once, then 4 appears 1, 2, so 4 appears 2 times, then 5, 1, then 7 also appears once, then 8. 8 also appears once. Now, we said mode is the number which appears the highest number of times. So when you look at all these numbers, the number which appears the highest number of times is 2. So the mode in this case is 2. Because 2 is the number which appears the highest number of times. So that is what we call the mode. Then we can look at another scenario or an instance where we have values such as, I'm given 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 4. And I'm required to determine the mode out of this. And we say the mode, you determine how many times does a particular number exist. So if I start with 1, 1 appears once, 2 appears 2 times, 3 appears once, 4 appears twice. Now when you look at these numbers, you'll observe that there are 2 numbers which appear the highest number of times. 2 appears twice, 4 also appears 4 times. So 2 and 4 have the same number of times in which they appear, and they also have the highest number of times in which they appear. So when I'm asked for the mode, my mode is going to be 2 and 4. And when you have a case where you have 2 different modes, that is what we call the bimodal. It's what we call the bimodal. Now, bi means 2. So when I say bimodal, that means that 2 numbers in the mode. That is what I mean by bimodal. Then we proceed to the median. Median. We say these are terms which help us to compare different values in a given set of values. Now, what do I mean when I talk about median? Median is got from the word middle. So the median is the value which is the middle value after the different values of a given data set have been arranged in order. When I talk about being arranged in order, I can either start by arranging from the smallest to the biggest, or from the biggest to the smallest. So for me to determine the median, I first arrange the values. After arranging the values in their order, then I look for which number appears in the middle. For example, example 1, I may have my numbers such as 2, 5, 10, 1, 4. That's my example 1. And I also have my example 2 as 8, 2, 5, 4, and 6 and 7. So out of this, I'm required to find the median. And we say the median is got by, you first arrange the values in their order. In other words, I can either arrange starting with the smallest to the biggest, or from the biggest to the smallest. So in this case, maybe I can start with the smallest. Now the smallest value here is 1. followed by 2, we are arranging them in order, followed by 4, followed by 5, and finally 10. Now I'm going to look for which value lies exactly in the middle of these values. So what do? I correspond the values which are at the extreme ends. So I get this one and I correspond it with the 10 like this. Meaning I've eliminated the values which are at the extreme ends. Because I'm trying to work out until I come to the value which is in the very middle. Then from there, I go to the next extreme numbers, 2 and 5. Now you realize that 4 remains in the middle. Meaning 4 is my median, because we say median is the number which is in the middle of a given data set. So my median in this case is going to be 4. Example number 2, same thing. I arrange these values in order. Maybe starting with the smallest. The smallest is 2 in this case, followed by 4, followed by 5, followed by 7, followed by 8. No, there is 6. Sorry. We missed 6. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally 8. So I start corresponding the values which are the extreme end. The one at the extreme end this side and the one at the extreme end this side. So I have my 2 and 8. I put them together. Or if that gives you hard time, you get your pencil. You cancel this one and this one. The ones at the extreme ends, you first cancel them. Then even the ones second to the ones which are the extreme ends, you also cancel. So that you come to a point where you have one value in the middle. So I have this and this. Then I also have 4 and 7. Now, you observe that if I do this, I'll not have any value left here in the middle. So I have a scenario or a case where I have two values which are lying in the middle. So what do I do in this case whereby I have two values in the middle, 5 and 6. And how do I get that number? I get 5 plus 6 and I divide by 2. Now 5 plus 6 gives us 11, and 11 divided by 2 gives us 5 remainder 1. So I write my answer, the median, as 5 whole number 1 out of 2, because we said it is 5 remainder 1. So we have looked at how to determine the median, and even in the case where there are two numbers in the middle, we have said you add those two numbers and you divide the result by 2. So that is how we determine the median. Finally, let us look at the range. The range now, when I talk about the range, I mean the range is the difference between the highest value and the lowest value in a given set of values. When I talk about difference, I'm talking about subtraction. So when you're told to find the range, you get the highest value and subtract the lowest value. So if I'm given a given number of values, maybe 10, 12, 3, 4, 7, 5, and maybe 17. That's example 1. And maybe for example 2, I'm given 5, 1, 8, 2, and 14. And I'm required to find the range of these different examples. Now for example number 1, remember we say range is the difference between the highest value and the lowest value. So I'm going to get the highest value in this example. These are the solutions. For example number 1, I get the highest value, in other words the biggest value. Now we have 10, 12, 3, 4, 7, 5 and 17. When you observe these numbers, you'll observe that 17 is the highest or the biggest number. So we said range is equal to the highest minus the lowest. So my highest in this case is 17, minus the lowest, which is, in other words, you look for the smallest number here, which is 3. So 17 minus 3 gives me an answer of 14. As simple as that. So range, you get the biggest number and subtract the smallest number. Then example number 2, we have said range is equal to highest minus lowest. So my highest number here, I observe that it is 14. And I subtract the lowest, which I observe is 1. So 14 minus 1 gives me an answer of 13. And that is my range. So that is how we determine the range. So I've looked at the mean, we've looked at the median, we've looked at the mode, and now the range. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. Meet you next time.